Death by 1,000 cuts, and what does it have to do with a white pantsuit? Hi, thanks for watching. Today is Wednesday, Big Idea Wednesday, where I like to talk about a psychological idea, something I think is really interesting, and share it with you. And today I found an article that's in the news that I can tie it into, so hopefully it'll get a few more views, who knows. But today I'm going to talk about an article in the New York Times about Tulsi Gabbard wearing a white pantsuit, and it's really ridiculous. I'll get to that in just a second. But the idea that I want to talk to you about is death by 1,000 cuts. Now, there are many different meanings for death by 1,000 cuts. The original is Ling Chi from China. It was an ancient Chinese capital punishment. And in business, it can describe a situation where a company dies not by any huge mistakes that they made, but a lot of little tiny mistakes along the way. But today, I want to talk to you about death by 1,000 cuts and how the media does it. And in this case, it could be death by 1,000 smears. It is very difficult to take out someone, say a politician, with just one smear or just one bad story. But if you have one smear here, another smear here, another smear here, throughout your paper every single day, all the different departments are putting up different smears about that same person, cumulatively, it can have a huge effect. And I'm going to explain why with this article about the pantsuit. But another example for this could be, death by 1,000 tweets. For example, let's say there's a small business, they have one employee that acts like a jerk, does something wrong. Well, if one person tweets to the manager, hey, this person did this, maybe they just deal with it and work on it. But if 1,000 different people tweet at this small business about this employee, the small business owner can be, I just don't want to deal with this, and just fire the employee just to be done with it. So for the example today, I'm going to use an article from last week from the New York Times. It's actually in the fashion section. And you would never think that a fashion editor would smear someone, but let's get to the article. It's entitled, Tulsi Gabbard's White Pantsuit Isn't Winning. The Democratic presidential candidate has made white the staple of debate night appearances. It leaves a chill. And just so you know, this white pantsuit that Tulsi Gabbard wore is very similar to the pantsuit of Hillary Clinton.
Thank you, Rachel. What an honor it is to be on this stage with my fellow candidates. I want you to know that I smell your fear and it makes me stronger. I'm wearing the white suit of your fallen hero, Hillary Clinton. Now fight me, cowards.
What has happened to the white pantsuit? Watching the Democratic debate held in Atlanta on Wednesday night, it was one of the questions that stuck with me. It's not as important as Medicare for All, obviously, or economic disparity, but given the role white pantsuits have played in the national conversation in the last 3 years, it's not immaterial, no pun intended. It was only a mere presidential election cycle ago, after all, that the white pantsuit was thrust into the limelight as a symbol of so much: women's advancement of opportunity, and the possibility of change, that it became not an item of clothing, but a placeholder in a continuum that began with the suffragists, continued through Geraldine Ferraro, and resonated today, that it sparked mountains of text and tweets and an entire Facebook groups dedicated to celebrating its meaning and urging adoption, and then designating it the outfit of the opposition, that Hillary Clinton made it the cause célèbre. Hashtag wear white to vote made it a hashtag. Melania Trump made it a pointed subject of speculation, and the women of the 116th Congress made it a gauntlet. Now, Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, underdog presidential candidate, has, by all indications, made it her uniform, and yet no one really seems to care. Wednesday evening marked the third time Ms. Gabbard appeared in a white pantsuit during the debate. Now, I find this really odd that this fashion editor is making such a big deal about a fashion choice of one of the candidates. Now, if she wanted to write about the fashion choices of all the candidates, I think that that would be interesting. But I find it odd she's hung up on this one with Tulsi Gabbard when there's so many fails that were on the stage. Yang's shirt, he has chosen not to wear the tie and whatever, he can do that. It's way too tight. It's way too tight across here. He needs a bigger shirt. Bernie Sanders always looks sloppy. Kamala Harris had some maroon, velvety bow thing that just looked ridiculous. And Elizabeth Warren with the black with the color on top looks like she's doing a tribute to Color Me Bad. I don't know. With all that other stuff going on, she's chosen Tulsi Gabbard in the white pantsuit. But let's get into the rest of this article and get to the smears. But it most probably also has to do with the fact that Ms. Gabbard herself doesn't seem particularly interested in connecting with the suffragists, but rather in using her white suits to tap into another tradition, latent in the public memory, the mythical white knight riding in to save us all from yet another regime change war. Her white suits are not the white suits of Miss Clinton, nor even the white of Miss Williamson, whose earlier appearances in the shade often seem tied to her wellness gospel and ideas of renewal and rebirth. Rather, they are the white of avenging angels and flaming swords of somewhat combative righteousness, also cult leaders. What? What? She's saying she looks like a cult leader? That is, come on. That is a terrible, terrible thing to say. And that kind of association, though it can be weirdly compelling, is also not really community building. It sets someone apart rather than joining others together. It is connotations of the fringe rather than the center. It is a reminder that clothes, especially when it comes to the optics of politics during an era of the ubiquitous screenshot, are only as meaningful as the content that fills them. Well, wow. Wow. But of everyone on stage, she definitely had content that she talked about, and she didn't just filibuster like, say, Mayor Pete. This article is clearly designed to give you a negative thought about Tulsi Gabbard, and it's just one additional little cut that is adding to the media, and especially the New York Times, trying to kill the campaign of Tulsi Gabbard. Will this work? We'll have to see. The defense for 1,000 smears or 1,000 cuts is resilience, and Tulsi Gabbard seems to have that. But we'll just have to see how this campaign leads out. But I do want to know what you think of this idea of death by 1,000 cuts, and is that appropriate for what the media is doing now? If you like this video, be sure to share it with someone. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Peace.